Hey guys, I'm back here with another gear review. I'm doing this one from a garage, actually, at the house where I'm staying at here in Tucson. There it is, and here's the rest of the house. It's going through rain showers right now. There's no rain going on right now, but it's just overall a rainy day here, and it's going to be raining tomorrow, so I don't get to head out to climb at all. So I figured I'd catch up on some videos and do a couple gear reviews with about belay devices that I have. And so I'm actually going to talk about the Edelrid Ohm today. And this isn't really a belay device. It doesn't really belong in the belay device reviews. But I did want to talk about this because it could help a lot of people out. And I'm not sure too many people know about this contraption right here. So what this is it's kind of like an offset. It's designed for people who are belaying other people that are a lot heavier than them. Instead of using the ground anchor. So ground anchor is very useful when you're in a top rope situation because usually it's a very static belay. You're not moving around too much. You're just staying in that same spot as you belay. Whereas with lead belaying, you have to move around a bit. When you're giving slack for the climber to clip, it helps to move into the wall about a step inwards. And then when you're trying to take up slack, it also helps to walk backwards to help take in some slack. So that's what this device allows you to do. And I'll cut in some footage of you can or pictures so that way you can see what it is in action. But the idea is that you attach this to the first bolt, and then the rope runs straight through this matrix right here. So that way, if the climber falls, it rotates up and then adds some friction onto the rope. And the way how it accomplishes this, so you can see that there is this just a tightening right here. It's really just a block of metal. There's nothing mechanical with it. But with the rope running up through this thing, it's designed so that way when it's hanging down on the wall, the rope just runs through it real easily. But the more it curves up, like in a lead fall situation, the rope gets channeled through this notch right here, and then that introduces friction to the whole system. So that way it's easier for the belayer to stay on the ground and not get lifted up so much with a longer fall or with a heavier climber. I've been testing this out with climbers who are smaller than me, people I just met and people that I already know. And I can say that the difference between me falling without this versus with this is it does add a lot of friction. Now I've actually had this, or I've been using ohms for a while. This is the first one that I actually own, but I've got one at the climbing gym I used to work at. We got an ohm and then tested around with it. And I will say that if you have the same body size, best not to use this because it causes a very hard catch. Even if the leader's doing everything they need to be doing in order to ensure a soft catch, this will make it a hard catch every time. Another thing that I will say is with less dramatic weight differences, let's say the difference between, to make it really simple, if you, the climber, are 80 pounds and your belayer is, 65 pounds, I wouldn't really recommend the ohm either because unless the crux is like at clip 1 or clip 2, as long as they get 3 or 4 clips up, you don't really have to worry about stopping the force of the fall super fast because of the drag on the rock. And that does depend on how the climb is, where it goes, as well as other factors like what kind of rope you have, how much stretch does it have, how experienced of a belayer you are. That can play a huge difference in these weight-saving gadgets. So take that one with a grain of salt. I will say that this can be a little confusing to use. I'm going to show you some tips later on. But if I hold this in the right light, you can see the little climber symbol with the arrow going up. That means that you want the rope from the belayer to go up through the device and then out the top. And you do want to check that every time you clip it onto a bolt to make sure you did it right. I personally always check just because I'm worried about screwing it up. I've also heard some stuff like if the climber pulls up rope really fast to clip, then this can get caught up in jam and make it harder for you to pull rope up. And while I'm sure that is a possibility to do. I haven't personally experienced that. Maybe if I keep on using this a decent amount of time in the future, that will start happening, but I don't really find that to be a huge problem. Uh, Maybe it's something like, also probably depends on the rope diameter, because the thinner ropes probably slip through this a lot easier than the fatter ropes. By the way, this is for rope diameters of 8.9 to 11 mil, and that pretty much covers just about any single rope on the market. This is a sport climbing device. I wouldn't recommend taking this up a multi-pitch climb unless you have like a really good reason for it. But it's not really made for multi-pitch climbing. It's made for sport climbing. Again, you can find a scenario where if your belayer is a lot smaller than you and you have your crux right off the anchor and it's a totally hanging belay, and you clip that first bolt and then fall a whole lot, maybe nice to have an ohm, but you could do other tricks like having the belayer belay straight off the anchor rather than off their belay loop. So I don't think this is really a multi-pitching gadget. It's only a single pitch gadget. It'll run you about $130. Comes with a carabiner and a dog bone, a rapide right here, and then obviously the ohm itself. Even though I think on the website they only show the ohm, it does come with this whole setup. So you don't have to pay any extra for that. $130. But it is a real nice gadget, and it's useful in a number of different circumstances. And I think it would be nice for... they sort of advertise it for climbing gyms, but I don't think it's something like you should have it on every single bottom bolt. One, because that would get really expensive, and two, is not everyone needs it. So if climbing gyms just had these like shoes, harnesses, chalk bags, just in their rentals, people just walk up to the front desk, hey, can I borrow an ohm? And then they'll hand it to them. I know in my climbing gym, that's what we did. We only had one of these things, but we didn't really need it that much. And we would lend it to different climbing groups that needed it for the day of climbing in the gym. And so I don't think you really need on every bolt, just to have like 3, 4, maybe 5 in your gym for members to use. And then that'll help your members stay safe, and belaying incidences could decrease with this. They aren't going to decrease fully, obviously, but this could help out with beginner belayers keeping control of the device and keeping the proper amount of slack, and just helping with those really hard catches. So let me show you how you use it, and a couple of things that I've learned, and a couple of tricks to make your time with this a bit easier. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is how I like to have this loaded before I go climbing. First things first is I got my harness on and I'm all tied in, and then I would have, usually I stick this on the right, but I try to guess which hand I'm going to clip the first bolt with, either my left or right. But then I'll have all my quick draws on the side and whatever else I want on my back loops. So I like to, when I'm climbing up, just grab this, clip it onto the bolt, and be ready to go. So I preload the rope in before I start climbing. And it does take a little bit of imagination to do this, but I already showed you that climber picture right there with the arrow going up. So I've been practicing this. Check it out. I'll show you how I open it up. Open it up like so, bring the rope in, make sure I lined up the climber arrow going towards myself, and then this plate closes over it. Now there is this little latch right here. You can see how it closes, and when you want to open it up, you hold down the latch and pop it open. So that latch is actually pretty secure. I've never had this accidentally come open on me. And then I got the climber arrow, just one more check. Make sure that arrow to the climber side is going to me. Then I have a bit of rope through, and then I just bring it, clip it to my harness. And then I'm ready to go. Then I'm climbing. Let's say this is my bolt right here. This does take some imagination sometimes. Like in this case, I need to actually flip my hand around and then clip my bolt. And then you can see I'll do one last double check. Make sure that arrow with the climber lines up to me. And you may use your imagination a bit. Imagine you going up with the rope, and then it feeds out just like so. And then I would go on and climb up to the next few bolts that I want to clip. So that's essentially how it works. The other situation for whatever reason. Could be it's already up on the bolt and it's opened up. And in that case, you either know this is, if you're going to do that setup, maybe with a stick clip or something, then I'd recommend having this thing open up towards you, because all you have to do then is, just like normal clipping, make sure that the climber comes out the front and then close it over. I've actually done both because I was on a project route and had this at the bottom, and when I was coming down, I unclipped this from the rope just by popping it open and then bringing the rope out, and then it was already up there on the wall for the next time I went to climb. And then it's actually not too hard to do it with one hand. It may take a bit of practice, but that's no big deal. And then your ohm is all ready to go. So that's essentially how you load up the ohm. That's how you use it. When you lower down, it may take a little bit of interesting maneuvers. A lot of times with a weighted rope, it'll get stuck in this upward position, and so the blayer will have to wiggle the rope so that way it falls down the line. Here, I'll show you what I mean. So when you're lowering, it can get stuck in its highest position, like this. That's it camming down on the rope. And sometimes you may even have to unweight the rope, and the blayer can wiggle the rope from the other side, which works it out of that notch, and then it just slides down the rope. That's when it's in its nice setup, and rope slides through really easily. Even when I yank it, the rope still goes through. So it is a really ingenious device. And again, if you're experiencing weight differences of 30 pounds, maybe 30 pounds or more, then this is a good device to have. And I'm aware it's not a belay device, so I'll promise my next video will be a belay device, but I just wanted to spotlight the ohm because I do think it is innovative and solving a bit of a well-known problem in the lead climbing community. Alright guys, so that's the ohm. Please leave a comment or a question if you have one. I would like to hear any stories you guys have with your ohm, if you like it or not, because this is kind of a weird device. I'm not sure if I like it a whole lot, especially if I were belaying. I don't think I would use this belaying because I don't think it's too much. I don't think it's too useful for like a super experienced belayer, but I think it will help the beginner belayers help get their feet, especially when they're learning how sport projecting works and how to deal with belaying for that. So that's the ohm, and then I will see you next week with another belay device review.